Hello everybody, welcome to Future of Beauty Unfiltered. Hannah Cook, Head of Growth and Innovation at the Pull Agency here. And today we're going to do something a little bit different. For anyone that doesn't know, earlier this year we released our annual piece of consumer research, and this time it was all about Generation X, the invisible consumer. Can your brand God, it's been a long week. Can your brand afford to ignore them? Short version, the answer was no, but actually we had an incredible panel of guests join us and it was so insightful. These women were so funny and just amazing professionals to speak to within the industry, and so we just felt like we'd be doing everyone an injustice if we didn't give it to you in podcast form as well. Check it out.
Thank you so much, Catherine and Ben, for that amazing report. But I am very excited today to be joining you with our very glamorous panel to continue the discussion. So we have three incredible women from some real powerhouse businesses and actually very knowledgeable in their own right. So I just want to do a little introduction. So today we have Tina Backhouse, who is the General Manager from Theramex UK and Ireland. Welcome. So Tina has over 25 years experience in global senior leadership roles within the pharmaceutical industry. She brings experience of launching innovative products across diverse range of therapy areas within both large and small pharma companies, and I'm really keen to talk about that for this category in particular today. Tina joined Theramex to lead the UK women's health business in July 2020, helping to establish Theramex in the UK as the largest supplier of HRT and menopause products. She is passionate about there being equality of care for all women regarding their health in the UK, and that women have a choice when it comes to their healthcare options. Thank you so much for joining us. Next, we have the lovely Sarah Carolides, Head of Nutrition at Zooki. Sarah is one of the UK's top functional medicine and nutrition specialists with over 20 years of experience, with 20 plus years of experience helping and supporting people with nutrition and health problems. Sarah has managed to change countless lifestyles, actually including my own, I'm going to say after the intermittent fasting discussion, across the UK and worldwide. We will definitely be talking about that later. Sarah works with numerous leading companies across the UK in their workplace wellness programs. The approach that Sarah likes to take is working with doctors and consultants, and her secret weapon is a whole body approach that embraces everything from food and hydration to sleep and exercise, stress management, and even organisation. As Zooki's Head of Nutrition, Sarah also leads the key conversation around health conditions such as menopause in the workplace and the importance of vitamin D. Thank you so much for joining us. And last but by no means least, and I'm going to be doing that a lot today because it's January, we have Myriam Welsh, Managing Director from Guinot of UK and Ireland. Welcome. Myriam has a solid background as an expert in beauty. She started her career in Paris at Shiseido Group, where she successfully launched the Narciso Rodriguez and Elie Saab fragrances and the Jean Paul Gaultier male skincare and makeup line for the French local market. I love that line, by the way, amazing. You then actually joined Pandora's Jewelry as Marketing and Communications Director and was a member of the original team that created the French subsidiary and launched the brand in France. Based in Hong Kong between 2014 and 2021, Myriam has helped startups set up and launch their global marketing strategy. She joined the Ailes Group in 2017 as APAC Sales and Marketing Director and Talika in 2009. The list is endless. You have done so much, but it's all in beauty. Obviously, after relocating to the UK in 2021, as an absolute powerhouse, you have joined Guinot in the UK as Managing Director for UK and Ireland. Welcome, all three of you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I cannot wait to get started. So, should we jump into some questions? The first one, we've kind of gone through a lot of the findings today and the discussions. What did you think of them? And actually, was there anything you found particularly interesting or surprising? Tina?
Well, being of that generation myself, I think a lot of it I anticipated. I guess what I did find surprising was the online stuff, and I can only talk about my own experience of beauty or nutrition. I buy everything online, usually from recommendation or from somebody or, somebody, an expert in the field. I mean, I was saying earlier, I went into Boots the other day for something for my daughter, and I was overwhelmed. I literally felt overwhelmed by the amount of choice there was. And I recently did a talk at the Holland and Barrett head office in central London, and again massively overwhelmed by all the nutrition, especially for women my age around menopause. And even if we talked about vitamin D, which I agree is really important, even just buying vitamin D is overwhelming on the shelf. So I don't do that. I sometimes go into a smaller place like Space NK and look at new things because it feels quite safe, but I find it's too much. So the online thing, I think, for women that I know and myself is a much bigger driver. Also, we're very busy, and it comes, it's delivered, it's all very simple. I buy my prescriptions online. I order them, it comes in the post. So I do everything online. So that was the only bit that I found surprising, I guess.
I think as well, one of the things that we've learned the most about this generation is they are time poor because they
Agreed.
are very much relied on. They are kind of always the heads of the family and household. Yeah. They also have kind of established those careers, and a lot of the time, if they are working, are in fairly senior positions, and so therefore there's more demand on them than ever before.
Yeah.
Sarah?
And we also don't sleep sometimes, and and so a lot of my purchases are at like 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and that's the reality. We did some research around that, didn't we? Around Facebook and when women of this age are on their social media, and those are the key times because we don't sleep as well as we did.
Absolutely, Sarah. What do you think about the sleep side? Anything you saw interesting from today?
Sleep was the first thing with me, and menopause. My experience was sleep went, and it's an absolute killer. It really, really is. But I loved the report. I think it's very timely. And I think what I find surprising is that it hasn't been talked about more before, that this is only coming out now because it is such an important age group. Like you say, they've got the spending power, they've got the knowledge, but they haven't got the attention that they should have. And I think it's absolutely key. What's interesting, whereas we're not maybe fulfilling the expectations of previous generational cohorts because we feel slightly younger or whatever, we're approaching it differently, physiologically, we are going through the same stages, and that is really important to recognize. Also, as a positive, I think the conversation around menopause, I love the fact that it is so much bigger than it was 5 years ago, getting some real attention, but it is still generally seen as a negative. And in my experience with my clients, they are often at the peak of their career. They are juggling family, aging parents, jobs, whatever. It's not always a negative. If you can get it right, get them the right products, then they are absolutely flying.
We actually saw that when we did our qual research. We ran focus groups, and one of the women very lively was like, why would I care that I don't have my period anymore? This is a good thing. And their frustration is that brands at times are making them feel like it's a bad thing. And I think that's where particularly, three of you very much, it's all about empowering women irrelevant of that age group. Myriam, what about yourself? Obviously working kind of in the skincare space. What are your views on this?
I have no problem with sleep, which is a good thing. Well, I would say, if we're talking about Gen X, for Guinot, it's exactly the women we are talking with and talking to. So I would say, yes, sometimes you feel Gen X women are not top of mind, but actually they are for a lot of brands, and they are more and more represented too. I think we just discussed about representation. When you see, for example, Andy McDowell, now still the face of L'Oreal with her stunning grey hair. So I think it's very, very good to see that representation is going the right way. And that we can see that it's, well, basically aging is what happens when you're lucky enough to live a long life. And it's the way you embrace it and the way you're happy to show your self-confidence. So it's all about self-confidence for me, and seeing all these women more and more confident, showing themselves how they are. When you see, for example, the campaign with Kate Winslet removing makeup live, that was a fantastic tool because yes, she's a movie star. Yes, she has a lot of help, but we can see her without makeup. All the no makeup trend now, like Alicia Keys going.
Pamela Anderson did it,
Absolutely,
didn't she?
absolutely, and yeah, and it still feels very bold, where it shouldn't. Actually, it's just showing yourself as you are and showing that you are confident enough to show yourself as you are. It's very empowering.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think this generation are definitely starting to be more confident in vocalizing that. And it's not that perception that everyone has to chase that, I guess, that look or feeling of youth. And actually, it's more about wellness. Based on the findings in the survey, Gen X is a sizable group with high spending power. We know this. And yet, to many marketeers, they don't seem to be front of mind. Why do you think that might be? Now, I'd like to start with you, actually, Myriam, because you guys as a brand, that's not the case.
Yes, so exactly what I was saying before. For us, this is the main, the main generation we are working with, working for, breathing for, basically, to just give them the tool to feel confident with their skin. So, yeah, why don't other brands do it? Because I think it's still very much appealing to have a younger lady or girl showcasing the unrealistic expectations you shouldn't have, basically, where it's much more powerful to show what you can have, what you can achieve with your own skin. We just started a campaign with a fantastic 57-year-old woman, Mia Moget. She's so inspiring. So she has fantastic gray hair, and she said she won the battle against age when she stopped fighting. And I love the spirit. It's exactly what we want to show to women. And I think also brands need to be more honest about the results you can achieve with your own skin. And this is what we do in our salons when you have your own consultation, skin consultation, diagnosis, prescription, follow-up with your qualified beauty therapist, is showing that you can achieve fantastic results if you do consistent, skincare and treatments. So yeah, the brands should be more honest about what you can achieve and how you can be more confident with your skin.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else want to chip in on why we think Gen X gets ignored so much? Here we go.
Well, I would say it's blatant misogyny, and so in terms of Gen X women, and, obviously you have trailblazers like Myriam who are there leading the way, but that hasn't always been the case, and if I think about pharmaceutical companies, the reason that Theramex exists as a women's health care company is because lots of big pharmaceutical companies sold off their women's health products and their menopause products because they didn't see a future in it. So there's a lot of misogyny, and until women are in the positions where they can change that. And we've discussed this. I can't tell you how many agencies I've sat in front of, not Paul, it has to be said, but other agencies who have presented the most appalling images to me and thought that reflected what women of this age group looked like. And, it absolutely sends me into a fury. I think as well, we have to be really careful now. And Eleanor Mills, who, runs her Great Queen Ager campaign through her noon.org organisation, which is a fantastic organisation aimed at this group of women. But they've done a lot of research about how we don't actually, just because we're entering into almost a new type of misogyny where we're saying, menopausal women, and we're kind of defining the women by their menopause. We don't want to be defined by our menopause. It's a stage in our life that, if managed exactly as Sarah said, if managed correctly, can be extremely positive. I am not a big fan of going into big organisations and seeing menopause skincare products, which I 100% do not I've had consultant dermatologists tell me there's no difference in the ingredients in those products. But now we're seen as a brand, but we're still not seen as a brand of strong, powerful women. We're just now seen as a brand of, for some people, menopausal women. And that infuriates me.
Well, it's like if you think about it with medical conditions, I'm not saying menopause is a medical condition. It's a stage you go through from a biological perspective. But it's still something that it happens to you rather than you do through your lifestyle or whatever as a woman. And we don't like having it published on boxes and products and being defined. No. People that have hearing challenges or are visually challenged, like, they don't like being reminded of those things. It's part of their life. They're effectively a human being with a personality. But for some reason, when it comes to menopause or Gen X women in general in this category, their age and whatever they are lacking, I'm going to do that, lacking in comparison to what their younger kind of counterparts had, seem to always be seen as a negative. What about your perspective? Why do you think, Zooki is a brand, right? You're very inclusive when it comes to your products. What do you think about Gen X as a category?
Well, I think what surprised Zooki, probably before I joined, was the way it resonated, the way they discovered that it was Gen X who are the main buyers. Either they're buying for themselves, or maybe they're buying for their children, their husband, their partners, anybody, or even their parents as well, in care homes or something. So they are the major power. And I think that was a big turning point for the brand. And since then, they have gone out to appeal very much to that. They've taken them into consideration, and they've gone very heavy on the science. They've gone very heavy on the efficacy and just making sure it's absolutely top notch and not just all about influencers and pretty packaging. They've got that as well, but it is more about the science and the efficacy underneath. But just going to that point on the misogyny, I find it absolutely fascinating. And I always say to people, if you have a room, if you go into a boardroom of men and you say, right, I'm bringing in a pregnant woman, what does she need? And they'll go, oh, she needs a chair, she probably needs a snack, and she probably needs a loo break. If you say, okay, there's a menopausal woman here, they'll go, what does she need? And they'll be like, oh, a wide berth. They absolutely do not have there is this fear. And I have one lovely client who works for a major American bank. She's on the board. She walked in the other day, started having this terrific hot flush, and she was like, right, guys, you're going to go through the menopause with me now, and sort of, stripped off, opened the windows, and made them all hold their breath until they went completely red in the face and felt really uncomfortable. And she's like, I want you to know what this feels like, and whatever. So it's, yeah.
Wow. Why do you think, actually, that ageing still remains a taboo? There is still so much division between how society views men and women when it comes to ageing. In some ways, people view it as how, people look and dress has become much more liberal. And so I think for that reason, we're actually more open as a society of people when it comes to how we choose to express ourselves in the clothes and colours and even hairstyles that we wear. And yet, when it comes to age, that open-mindedness, for some reason, particularly within the advertising world, and actually in society still at times, isn't there yet. Why do you think that is? There's very much, we seem to be stuck in this search for, the connection between beauty and women, and then age being a part of it. And it's either, if age starts to appear in a negative way, beauty therefore no longer exists. Why do we think that is? Why are we still stuck in this really old mindset when it comes to aging?
I've just got a couple of quick kind of observations. I think it is an old mindset, and I know there's research on that when a man gets grey hair, he's considered more wise.
Silver fox.
And sage. When a woman starts to get grey hair, she's considered, she's past her prime, we're not going to listen to her now. And I think coupled to that, a lot of women, as they go through menopause, they start getting a bit of brain fog, which is basically the brain responding to the changing levels of hormones. It takes a while to adapt. And they start to feel scared. So they do kind of shy away from talking as much, or just thinking, okay, maybe I'm not going to be as good as this anymore. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. There's the male perception of a woman who's aging is not a great thing to have around, and the woman herself starting to feel that she's not as capable as she used to be.
Self-doubt creeping in. What about from your perspective? Obviously, age is a big part of what you guys
Yes,
have.
well, I think there is this double standard between men and women. You say it's Silver Fox. We have a similar saying in English and in French that is men age like fine wine. As French, we talk about wine. But that's interesting, where it seems that women's beauty sadly has an expiration date. And I was talking with someone in my team, and she even said we have a shelf life, and I was awful because I could imagine myself on a shelf as a product, and I felt very bad. The thing is, why are we stuck with this youth image? Because we are constantly bombarded with images of young women. Because when we compare ourselves with our mom and grandmothers, we have such a different life. I'm 48. I still feel I'm 28, honestly. I have the same energy. I just have more responsibilities, and I love it. It's just... when I look in the mirror, I don't see what I feel I am. And I think this is this discrepancy that makes something strange and make us want to look different and look younger, where we can, but as I said, we need to have realistic expectations. We can achieve a lot of different improvements in the way we look. But I think the answer to your question is because we are bombarded with a lot of stereotypes still. And in the past, we were investing in our appearance because we wanted to get the male gaze approval. Now I think we are investing in our appearance because we want to have our female peers approval or acceptance, because women can be very critical of each other still, where I feel we should invest in our appearance because we need to feel good about ourselves. And at Guinot, we always say, when someone comes and says, skincare is very expensive. Well, skincare is not an expense. Skincare is an investment in yourself. And we always say, it's like education. There is no better investment that what you invest in yourself. And that's exactly it. Invest in your own beauty and in your own well-being.
Absolutely. And you're spot on, I think, when you say about what you kind of see in the mirror isn't what you feel inside. And Tina, we talk about that a lot. Go on then, let's hear it.
Well, I mean, there's not much to add to what my esteemed panel here has said, except the fact that it's still a part of how society values women, and women are seen and have been seen throughout history as being valuable during their fertile years, to produce future populations and generations, and being a mother. And there's a lot of that still around in terms of, in the past, of course, women were, put in asylums when they went in menopause, were probably burnt at the stake, in Middle Ages as witches when they went through the menopause, and they no longer have a usefulness to society. Now, obviously, that's not the case now, but there's still elements of that around in terms of how beneficial you are to society when you're an older woman, and how you look is really tied up in that, and there's a lot of, if you look at, for example, women of this age in the dating area, there's so many examples of it's very, very hard for women, I'm 53, I have to think about that now, but I am 53, and but it's very, very hard to meet men of your age who want to date women of your age. So most men of this age will want to date younger women. And that's a fact. That's the statistics are out there. So what does that tell you about how women are perceived? However much great skincare is probably better than women in their 30s, but you're still not perceived as being attractive. So when people are putting their filters, I only want to date women between this age and that age.
It's quite frustrating, actually. I think one of the things you mentioned around shelf life, it implies that women typically are an ownable asset rather than anything else. And it does, a lot of the language that's used. Speaking of language, I have a quick question actually around aging labels. And I think, Tina, I'd be keen to hear what you think on this one, and then I'll move on. So there's very much a split room when it comes to the different cohorts around how to define and label, I'm going to call it anti-aging. Doing that again, guys. Anti-aging products. Sometimes it's pro-aging. Sometimes people don't even want to see the phrase anti-aging or anything to do with it at all. And yet in our research, what we've seen is Gen X just want to know what it does. Does it do what it says it's going to do? Don't really care what you call it. What's your view on kind of the labeling side of aging?
Yeah, so I do feel quite strongly about that. I don't buy any products that are labelled anti-aging. I don't buy any nutrient products that are labelled menopause. So I know I go to a facialist once a month. I know that I should, my prescription is vitamin C, is retinol, whatever it is. None of those packages say anti-aging. They are just the product. And I know that for this point in my life and my skin's life, that's what I need. I know going through the menopause that I need to take vitamin D, I need to take, I can't remember, a few nutrients, and I take a probiotic. None of them are labelled as menopause products because I don't want that. I want to know what the raw ingredient is, and I want advice as to what the best raw ingredients are for. So I do not like the phrase anti-aging. Again, I think it has negative connotations. We're trying to turn back time. We're trying to, not accept our aging rather than actually give women the information that they need, that at different stages in their life, they need different raw ingredients.
What I love about this panel is there are so many powerful views on that. And I think there are definitely so many women that feel the same way. But there are also lots of women like Myriam, from your point of view, and even in our research we've done, that don't have an issue with that phrase. So what do you see around that?
Well, I think you can exactly see the two trends. Women as Tina rejecting it, women attracted by it because it's supposed to help you aging better. To be completely honest, we do have anti-aging and these kind of claims on our packaging, but with campaigns we are leading. We really try to distance ourselves from that. And for example, the campaign with Zooki and Moshe we currently have, I was talking about just a few minutes ago, is the pro-aging edit campaign. And you can see that more and more when you see, for example, AA group, which Environ is part of. They renamed last year, and that was very, very interesting because they were International Institute for Anti-Aging, and now they are for Active Aging. And I think it's fantastic, it's fabulous. It's exactly the direction all the brands should take to lead the way and to show it's just a question of aging gracefully.
So, with age, women's focus and regimes are changing. We've seen this in the report, and the survey highlighted a huge over-index of daily use of skincare compared to younger women. In the focus groups, Gen X were unanimously, and it was actually amazing to watch, talking about the fact that they spend similar time on health and beauty care, but they are actually spending a lot less time on makeup in comparison to skincare. We also heard that the face and décolletage is of an even higher importance than before. And there's also a shift from beauty, and to be fair, we've been seeing this for a long time, but I think it's great to hear it, shift from beauty to well-being and general health. So based on that, there are kind of two questions. And the first one is for you, Myriam, and then the other ones will be for Tina and Sarah. So firstly, hybrid product offerings. There appears to be an increased interest in multi-benefit products, more advanced solutions, and definitely a demand for them when it comes to women in their 40s and beyond. Trends like SPF within all of their makeup products, collagen, all these kind of different elements. Hyaluronic acids are definitely appearing in most kind of makeup now. Do you observe any of this kind of demand within your salons or your products, and how do you then translate that into the products that you offer in the communications?
Yeah, so of course we see that trend because women are busy and they don't want to spend tons of time in the bathroom. So we do have some hybrid products. We do have a makeup range infused with skincare. So, but I would say that is the limit of what we do, because we don't fundamentally believe in hybrid products. We believe in tailor-made prescriptions, tailor-made prescription based on what is your skin type, what is your need, what is your concern, what are your beauty objectives. So we really believe in something that is completely prescribed-led and personalized. So I would say yes, you can avoid having your 7-step beauty routine. Depends where you are in the world, because if you're in Asia, everyone has a 10-step beauty routine, and it's mandatory. It's every day, morning and night, because once again, it's the priority and it's an investment, and it's not only an investment in money; it's an investment in time. Now we cannot all afford spending half an hour in the bathroom in the morning and evening. So what we do with the beauty therapist, we really based on what is your lifestyle too. If you're traveling a lot, if you have less time, so we prescribe a routine that is exactly what you need and what you can do also regarding the time you have.
So it's still very personal, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you. And then the second part of that is for Sarah and Tina. You talk a lot, Sarah, about age and stage. We've spoken about this a lot, and I think this is really interesting. So life stages and milestone events, whether that's childbirth, menopause, your first period, could be anything, right? There are much bigger influences on women's perceived age and changing needs rather than their actual biological age. This has opened a real growing space for well-being products. The supplement market is a multi-billion. I lose track of what it's worth now, to be honest, because it's growing at hundreds and hundreds of percentage rates, what feels like annually. What is your advice on how to positively address the challenges of aging?
I think what's really important for Generation X is twofold. One, they have to recognize that what they could get away with in their 20s, you're sort of born with a bank of health kind of thing. And from about the age of 30 onwards, some things start to slow down. And that increases more through your 40s and 50s as you lose the hormones, estrogen, progesterone in particular. For instance, collagen. You lose the ability to produce collagen about 1% a year from, let's say, 30 onwards. During menopause, that speeds up hugely until the other side of menopause. By the time you're about 60, you're trying to keep your strength in your body. And we're not just talking about skin. This is not just vanity. I'm talking about tendons, ligaments, that the bladder is held up by a web of collagen. Okay, it needs to stay strong. Now, by the time you're about 60, you've got about a third of the production you had when you were 20. So going through your 40s and 50s, Generation X need to think about that stage. What is happening? Everything's starting to slow down. Maybe they're absorbing fewer nutrients because they're not producing the digestive enzymes they used to. All this kind of stuff happening. Add to that your own genetic inheritance. So for me, for instance, touch wood, we don't have cancer in our family, but we have osteoporosis. My mother, my grandmother, everybody suffered with it. So that's something I'm religious about, getting a bone scan every couple of years, making sure I do my impact exercise, taking the right supplements, making sure I'm eating the right foods, because I know genetically that's out to get me. So that you've got your sort of stage of life. You've got to acknowledge, what have I got time for? Am I relying on takeaways every night? Am I rushing home thinking, oh God, I've got to pop into Sainsbury's local because I haven't got anything for dinner on the table, whatever. Am I eating well enough? Stage of life, what do I need? Plus your own genetic liabilities. And it's really, if you can get that sorted, 40s and 50s, average women's lifespan is now at least 80, if not more. My dad's now 100. Okay.
Whoa.
So you could only
Nice.
a third to a half of your life still to go at age 50. So really get into it. Spend the time. Learn about what you need for the next phase of your life. that's empowering, and it's going to keep you going.
Where do you see the biggest growth opportunities when it comes to supplements?
I think leading on from the hybrid products, addressing issues. Nobody has the time to spend half an hour in the bathroom with a 10-step regime and also take 20 different supplements because they think, oh, I need calcium, so then I need magnesium. So very much the growth, well, two areas, the growth of issue products, if you like, for supplements. So this is something for arthritis. This is something for gut problems, whatever. That's an all-encompassing supplement. Also, really high quality, and that's where things like liposomal supplements come in, where the absorption is at least 4 times greater than your average pill on the counter, over-the-counter sort of cheap one. So really efficacious, really good efficiency and experience as well, and addressing a range of issues rather than just one thing.
Have you been listening to my 2024 predictions?
No, I haven't, but I'd love to.
Efficacy was number one when it
there you
comes to
go.
does it work?
I'm ready for 2024.
Absolutely. How appropriate. Thank you so much for that. Tina, thank you. What do you think on the matter when it comes to supplements in particular and how to actually positively address those challenges?
I mean, I totally agree with Sarah. For me, it's always about education, right? It's about education, it's about choice. And unfortunately, the amount of information that has been out there in the past, if we come at it, for example, from an HRT point of view, we know that in the past, and actually still, there's a lot of misinformation about what HRT is, what it isn't. And a lot of that is misinformation comes from a GP surgery. We know women are put on antidepressants when they're going with symptoms of menopause. Antidepressants aren't going to help you with your osteoporosis. They're not going to, they might keep you quiet and they might keep you out of a doctor's surgery, but they're not going to help you with long term. Do I think every woman should be on HRT? Absolutely not. But do I think women should have the choice around their healthcare? Yes, I do. I take HRT, it works for me. But I also take a lot of supplements. I also ride my Peloton every day. I also do weight-bearing exercise. I also am sober. Now, I cannot drink. I used to be drink a bottle of vodka before you even left the house kind of woman. That's, I could drink. I cannot drink anymore in menopause. I've had to make that decision. So you make those, and that's because I am in the so privileged position of being surrounded by experts in women's health on a daily basis who have told me all this information. But it's this education that leads to choice and women making proactive choices about how they want to go into their 50s, their 60s, their 70s, and later that is really, really important. And I do think, and that's what I said about the supplements, which I really do think have a massive place, but it's overwhelming to me. I could not walk into Holland & Barrett and buy supplements. I would have to go to someone like Sarah and say, tell me what I need, because it's so overwhelming.
There's actually a lot of, just listening to the three of you talk, there's an incredible amount of similarities between what you do with Guinot when it comes to prescribed skincare routines and obviously what you both do from a supplement and kind of menopause perspective. It's about this generation looking for not necessarily always the silver bullet, but that very confident guidance to keep things as simple. And we do, I think, make a mistake sometimes where we assume that our consumers are, we dumb it down a little too much. And actually, these are very intelligent, professional women that have got a lot of life experience. But what they don't have is time. So they don't have time to read through all kind of the marketing mumbo jumbo and all the fluffy language. They want to be told, does it work? Is it effective? Is it going to help me because of this issue that I have? Now, we actually heard from some women that whilst they welcome the more open conversations about menopause in recent times, they still feel that often the industry is talking about it in a way that actually makes women feel old. What is your view on this, and what should brands or even society do differently? What's got to give? What's got to change? Tina, should we start with you?
I think it comes back to what Sarah said about it's just a stage, right? It's just a stage of your life. And I think we have to get past the discomfort we have about what menopause is. You know, people, you know, when you're sat in a room, men might be quite comfortable if you say, oh, can we open a window because I'm having a hot flush? But are they comfortable when women start talking about their dry vaginas? Maybe not so much, you know. And so we have to realise that there's probably at least 50 symptoms. All women get things differently. You know, I was talking to Caroline Noakes, the MP, the other day, who was telling me that she had incredibly itchy skin. You know, I've never had that in menopause. Everybody has individual issues around it. But we need to be really comfortable talking about this, and we need to be really comfortable talking about it from when girls are young, and so that they know what to expect. They don't fear it, they embrace it, but they're ready for it. You know, and women are, you know, it's often criticised, the Davina effect is often criticised a lot, you know, in terms of what Davina's done. And, you know, but what Davina has done is she's made the conversation there. And, you know, women have had a lot more opportunity. And it's, again, about this discrepancy. If you, and, you know, I did an article in the Telegraph about this recently, about access to menopause care in this country can't just be for sharp-elbowed, white Guardian reading women, you know, who are educated enough to go into their GP surgery and ask for what they need. It needs to be available to all women, that they have the right level of information, that they have the right to see people who are dealing with their healthcare, whether that's a GP, a nurse, whoever it is, that they are educated around what the choices are available to them and what the long-term benefits of those are. So we have to get really comfortable having those conversations. You know, my daughter's 14. I drag her to all these menopause events with me, which she says she hates. She doesn't really. She gets to meet, you know, Davina and Carol Walsh. She loves it, really. And but they're much more comfortable talking about that, their generation. You know, I spoke to her the other day and she said, oh, I have a 26-day cycle. And I said, how do you know that? How do you even know that? And she went, because I track it on the app. And I was like, oh my God, you know, this is how this generation, this is incredible. This is women at that age owning their gynecological health. We are complicated. We have different stages. Childbirth, we have lots of gynecological issues that can happen. So we just need to be informed, and we need to be able to own it, and we need to be able to give them choice about what we can do about that. You know, there are women in Northern Ireland who are waiting 5 years to see a gynaecology with endometriosis. That is not acceptable. That is not acceptable. Because that will affect their fertility, and that will affect their ability to go to school, go to university, go to work on a daily basis. We need to invest in women's health and see women. We're actually not half the population, we're more than half the population. We need to be treated with respect and given the right resources to make choices around our healthcare.
Absolutely. Why do you think, just quickly, and Sarah, you can add to this as we were talking about it earlier, why is it that the women that sit in the Gen X category are the ones that are happy to be very direct about the reality of what they're going through and talk about menopause and everything else versus the kind of younger women?
Do you think that's true versus younger women? Well, they haven't experienced it yet.
Yeah, I think it's a mixture. We definitely see, so when we did our research, like I said, they're far more direct. They're like, I don't care. I don't care, or why do I have any negativity towards this? And I think some of it is, unless you've lived it, you don't necessarily appreciate it. But I do think the different generations look at things in a different way. There's definitely that element of when you get older, I think skepticism was a big theme that we saw with Gen X as a group of women in particular. Do you think that is the same when it comes to their health?
I think, okay, it's very interesting, and I can answer more for the Gen X group, really. I think it's because they're going through it, and they're not about to disappear and say, we're not important. I was on a panel, actually, last year with Caroline Noakes and Denise Wilson Welsh, who runs the Hamilton Alexander FTSE 100 boards. I don't know if you know her. Anyway, and they had this really interesting discussion because Caroline was just trying to push through her menopause should be a protected status through Parliament, which got shot down. And Denise was saying, no, don't do that, because it'll give men another reason to discriminate against us. I'm not going to hire a woman because, you know, she's going to get pregnant, or she's going to want leave for PMS and this, that, and the other, and then childbearing and whatever, and then she's going to have menopause. There's going to be a problem. So, you know, let's not make it such a big issue. But going back to your question, I think women, the pressures on them that have been there through previous generations, they're now standing up and say, look, you know what, medically we have not been looked after. There is terrific gender bias. Actually, I'd be interested for your view on this, in research into pharmaceutical products. Women of colour, oh my goodness, women of colour are more likely to go into menopause earlier, and if they go to the doctor, they are something like 90% more likely to be told, you don't need HRT, just suck it up. Basically. I mean, there's tremendous racial and gender discrimination in the pharmaceutical industry. And I think for the first time, we're starting to say, no, that's not good enough. We're going through this. We're still valuable members of society, and we need to be taken into account.
I think it's amazing, actually. Again, I said to you earlier, just thinking about what all three of you say and the kind of connections. I think the beauty industry is a lot further ahead sometimes when it comes to that personalization and understanding it. Making it real, relatable, and personal is something that Gen X women kept coming back to in both our quant and qual research. What do you take from this when it comes to brand communications and making them the most engaging for your audience? I want to start with you from a Zooki perspective, because you guys offer such a wide range.
Yes.
And then go to Myriam and Tina.
We have an incredibly active customer support team who, when people ask questions, well, either we have a sort of bank of answers to give them, or they funnel them through to me if it's something more complicated. But what we're trying to build up actually is a team of nutritionists who like the brand and can help with answering this, because personalization is so important. You see this rise on TikTok of whatever is flavor of the month, whatever particular product is important that month. And 25-year-old probably doesn't need it at all, or they need a different dose or whatever, or they need it in combination with something else. So I think that personalization, as a young brand, we noticed it very early on. We experimented with a quiz, and now we're trying to make it even more personal. But it's absolutely key. Why would somebody come along and just buy an off-the-shelf product when they haven't been told this is right for you, it's important for you? And also, some products can mess with something else that you're doing and actually have adverse effects that are really important. You know, younger women, if you're taking the pill, there are certain nutrients you are more likely to be deficient in. That education is not out there. No GP gives that information. So if they come to us, we can say, okay, maybe you need some B12. You're vegan. All right. Have you thought about your essential fatty acids? All that kind of stuff. Really, really important. And I think brands will last longer and be trusted more if they offer that.
Absolutely. Myriam, from your perspective, obviously we know that personalization is a huge part of what you do, but what about real and relatable? I think being realistic, one of the things that I love about kind of speaking with you and your team at Guinot is you have got to be realistic on your expectations as what you can achieve with products in a particular time. What are your views on that for this category of women?
Well, it's like we often compare that to going to the gym. If you go to the gym once and you exercise, fantastic, but will you be completely fit for a year? No. And would you expect such a result? No. So if you go to your therapist and you have a treatment, will you feel fantastic after the treatment? Yes. Will you keep the result for a week or 2 or 3? Absolutely. Will you keep it for a year? No. But is it a realistic expectation? No. So it's all about what you need, as I said, personalized prescription, but the consistent and regular use of products you need and treatments. I think also you were talking about results and how do we explain what you can achieve. What we do, we always share with our therapists all the scientific results because we test all the products on the skin with the condition adapted to or the type of skin adapted to the product. So we share all that with the therapists so they know exactly what can be expected from the product or from the treatment. And a lot of before and after photos, I mean, nothing beats that. We launched a new machine last year, Visible Edge Reverse, with incredible results. If we mentioned the results we can achieve, nobody would believe it. When we show it, well, you have the proof. And then we do take photos before and after of every client. So they know exactly what to expect and know exactly what they achieved, and they know exactly how to maintain it
and
with
it's
a routine.
Real women. It's
oh no,
not
absolutely.
Models,
No, they are not
AI.
model. No, they are our clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think that's a big part of it. Tina, what do you think? I know that you're a massive advocate, thank you, of keeping it real, but I think that's something that this generation are really hungry for.
Yeah, and it's an interesting one from a pharmaceutical company, really, because we can't promote our brand, into customers. So, and the pharmaceutical industry historically has been seen as very secretive. Public perception has always been around, the same level of trust in the pharmaceutical industry is the same as the tobacco industry, which is shocking, really. And so, it's about breaking those taboos. And I think, we don't promote our brands, but we can promote what we do in women's healthcare. And that's as important to me as the business. The business is fine. In the UK, 4 years ago, there was no business. Today, it's the biggest business. It's a, £70 million business in the UK. And that, 4 years ago, it was a £1 million business. So that's okay. We can do that. But it's how we do. So it's not about the what, it's how. It's the how you do it. And you do that by being authentic. I have talked very openly about, the issues I had with my own menopause in the press. I've been criticised for that, generally, by the medical people out there, that I shouldn't talk about that. But I will carry on talking about that. And I will carry on using whatever small platform I have to make a difference in how women's health is perceived in this country. And as we talked about over coffee, I literally got to the age of 50 and didn't give a shit anymore what I said or what people think. And I generally don't care. You might agree with me, you might disagree with me, but this is my truth and this is what I believe. And I believe that, we have a bigger platform than just supplying HRT. We have an ability to help shape how women's healthcare, how studies are done in women in pharmaceutical, how there is a lack of, you're absolutely right. There is racism, there is ageism, there are all these things that are there in women's health products and historical data, and we need to change that. And we will only need to do that by making people uncomfortable and talking about what we need to talk about. So, and, whether that's being authentic to yourself or whether that's just, always, you'll ultimately probably get sacked one day because for being too truthful, but, I'm 54. That time will come, I'm sure. So, but that's what we need to do. We need to be really authentic and speak the truth and say what is going on out there and represent women who are, we're very lucky, aren't we? Because we are educated. But, I often say it's not just about women in boardrooms getting the healthcare they want, because often they can afford to pay for it, and they do. It's about women that get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and have to go to cleaning jobs or work in Sainsbury's or work in factories where they're the only women. I met a woman once recently at an awards ceremony who told me she worked at a football club. She'd been there for 30 years, and it was very male dominated. And when she first started with the menopause, she was so scared to tell anyone. She had to go and walk around the football pitch to try and cool herself down. And it's those women that we need to be able to look at and make sure that they have the same access to healthcare that I have in Winchester.
100%. Anyone else want to add to any of that? If not, I'm going to go on to one last question, and then we've had a couple of extra questions come in from the audience. It's a bit of a general question, but I think, we've got skincare, supplements, and then I think you've got pharma. Can we get your top tips, please? So what can health and beauty brands do today to best engage, in your personal views, with Gen X women? Because you are all Gen X women, right? So in your personal views...
I'm a boomer.
She's a boomer.
I'm a boomer.
Very sexy boomer, guys. That was a down the camera comment needed. Great looking boomer. Either way, I'm going to say, honour any Gen X. What are your best tips then? What can you do to engage with health and beauty brands?
Well, as we said, the expectation of all Gen X women is results and honesty and transparency. And I think as long as you can really explain what you can do for them, what they can achieve, and prove that, then you'll find education is everything. And that's what you say too, Tina. Education is everything. So educating women about their own skin, to take the lead and know what they can achieve, to just build or restore this self-confidence.
Thank you. Sarah?
I think actually what this report shows is there's a tremendous opportunity for brands, because I know if I'm given a magazine somewhere, I flick through the adverts at the beginning. I might stop and look at a handbag or something, but I'm looking at an 18-year-old holding it and thinking, well, that's irrelevant for me. And I flick through everything that's, because I just think, or even on Instagram or whatever, I follow a couple of women. There's one, I've no idea what her name is. She goes, I'm 58 and this is how I style a lurex skirt or something. And I watch what she does with it and I think, okay, yes, I can do that. She's, I don't know how many followers she's got, but I'm not going to look at a 20-year-old advertising it. So I think if brands now take the findings that you've got there and start addressing these women, showing real women of the same age, educating, building a community, not talking down to them, I think it's terrific opportunities.
So I probably can't add much to what's already been said, but I think it's just about, first of all, ask us what we want and what we need and stop telling us. And secondly, I think it is about seeing our own image out there, which is empowering. And it's empowering for women at all ages, but also that not just one type of woman. I want to see working class women. I want to see all sorts of women and the benefits that they can get in healthcare, and that women of all different shapes and sizes. One of the big triumphs is the Dove campaign, I always think, where they show women of all different colours and sizes. And, whether or not you think that's a good campaign, I think it is, because I think it shows women as they are. And I think that's what we want to see in this age group as well.
100%. I mean, I have to praise Marks and Spencer's as well. A couple of years ago, you walk through their underwear section and you got the most beautiful stretch marks on some nice peachy bums and of all skin types and textures. And I think, the reality is you want to see yourself. You buy what you know. So I've got a couple of questions that have come in from the audience. The first one, I think we'll open it up. So if so many women resent to be pushed into preventing the aging process, and that's not all women, but a lot of women do resent that feeling of being pushed into the aging process, why do we still see so many products calling out anti-aging benefits? I think there are obviously a couple of reasons coming into play here, but I think it'd be really great to see what you think.
Well, I think it's circling back to what we said, the two different women, one wanting to see anti-aging, the other one really avoiding it. And I think it's a question also of creativity for the brands. What do you showcase if not anti-aging? How do you talk to women? And some of the brands completely found their tone of voice now, and some of the brands are still looking for it. But it's fine, because I think all the brands are currently going in the right direction at different pace. But now there is a consciousness of okay, let's take into consideration the Gen X women. They are not old. They are self-confident. They are very attractive. Yes, we have a few wrinkles, but we have way more than that to offer. So.
Absolutely, thank you. I think one of the things to add to that was kind of popped into my head while you were talking is a lot of the time brands and marketeers assume that if you're targeting the age of Gen X women, therefore you must appeal to all. And the reality is a cohort is to give you a steer based on the efficacy of your product, if it's going to help them, if it's a price point that's accessible, lots of different factors. But that doesn't then take into account the attitudes of those women. I mean, just the three of you alone look at life in such a different way, and all of them are actually correct if, you know, from your own experiences. So it is very hard, obviously. It's about, I think, picking who it resonates with, and it can't resonate with all. But that being said, I think that diversity of kind of message, you're absolutely spot on. Anyone else?
I do think it's lazy marketing to a certain degree. And, you know, one of my great joys in life is calling out lazy marketeers when people come, you know, when we have agencies come see. I think they're always briefed by not Paul, but we're always briefed by my team in terms of do not ever show that, because I will call it out. And I will say, you know, don't tell me this, you know, that's what, you know, why are you showing me a picture of a 30-year-old woman with a menopause patch on it? Why are you HRT patch? It's ridiculous. You know, I want to see the truth. One of the great pieces of work that we did together, which I always think about, is, you know, when we created those little icons about the symptoms, and we created the cactus to talk about, you know, when people talk about vaginal dryness, they have historically shown pictures of roses. We don't see pictures of roses. I want to see a picture of a cactus, because that's what it feels like, a cactus in your pants. And we should stop pretending it's about roses and actually call it out for what it is. And that is where marketing, I think, can have such a big impact. But we need to call it out if we see it.
Thank you. So another comment that has come in was, I was surprised by how much more Gen X women spend and use health and beauty products. How do you explain this? Where does this make sense? Are you surprised that Gen X women spend more?
No. I mean, A, they've earned the money. B, they're starting to think, okay, I need to look after my health.
Spend it on what
I'm going to spend it on what I want. And they're also reaching a stage where maybe children don't need so much attention, whatever, and they want to build themselves up for the next stage of their life. So no, that doesn't surprise me at all. It surprises me it hasn't been recognised before.
What about time? Because a lot of time, I think, when it comes to Gen X, as you've mentioned, and we've seen in the report, you're not only looking after a family, but you're also entering that time of life where you're looking after parents. So you're kind of doubling up on the caregivers. We're still looking after our partners, households, careers, normally teams, as you've mentioned. But we're also, I guess, seeing that they're trying to prioritise themselves. What about when it comes to time? Are women in this area wanting to invest their time in that more? When it comes to self-care? I mean, are you seeing it from your point of view? And I think salons would be really interesting as well.
No, I don't think they have a lot of time. You've got to make it as easy as possible. I often say to women, you know, where are you most likely to remember this is something I want you to take every day. Right, what do you do every day? You have a cup of tea. Do you have milk? Right, put it by the milk. Or you're in your bathroom brushing your teeth. I want your supplements right there. Or by the bed. Something, you know, forget.
That screams at you.
It absolutely screams at you, is really easy. Or is it in your desk? Maybe it's, and, you know, and then that comes down to, forget supplements, that comes down to just diet as well. Meal prepping, thinking ahead, what you're going to make every day. Okay, this is going to happen on Friday, so maybe I'll eat beforehand. Or, you know, it would be lovely to do all the intermittent fasting, cold showers, do this, that, and the other every day, but it's not realistic. So let's work around your lifestyle and build in the real essentials, but make sure they happen.
Fabulous. Miriam, any views from your point of view?
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. It's also depend where your priority is too. Sometimes you have time for this, but you don't have time for that. If it's having an hour a month to see your facialist or therapist, I think as a brand, what we need to commit to is to make the best use of this time and to get you the most results within this hour. And And that's it.
Back to efficacy yet again. Well, thank you so much. I have loved this. Honestly, just amazing. Thank you everybody for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed it and found it useful. I sure did.